Let's review how to execute a fast push in a match. And also, how to make your short push spinny. Today, we'll cover two strategies. First, against opponents who don't generate much spin, you should add heavy spin to your pushes. If your opponent has a large arm swing, push the ball deep and fast, they will often hit it long. For players who loop very close to the table, push the ball long to jam them. Players who like to loop from further back are easily pulled out of position if you drop the ball short. An expert's push isn't just about heavy spin, it's about making it difficult for you to initiate your attack. Okay, Haike, demonstrate a loop, and let's ask everyone how they would push against this. Against a player with a big swing like this, how should you push? You should push fast rather than heavy. If you play a heavy spin push, their loop back will also have a ton of spin, causing your block to go long. Even though his friction is good, his stroke has less forward impact. Against this type of player, the more spin you give, the more they can use your ball's energy. Many players can push with heavy spin, but if you can't block the incoming loop, it's still considered a service return error. Now, what kind of push should you use against a compact loop stroke like mine? This motion is a bit like a forehand drive. Against this, push with heavy spin. The smaller stroke makes it harder to create a high, safe arc, so they're more susceptible to the spin. If the opponent stands in this position after serving, should we push long or short? If I push long, he's in a perfect position to loop. Show everyone how far you are from the table. See, he's quite far back. About an arm's length. A short push will be difficult for him, he'll have to reach or step in to loop it. But a ball that comes to this mid-distance allows him to use your pace and loop it easily. After the opponent serves, I would push it short against a player at this distance. If they stand close to the table after serving, like many beginners, I would push it deep and fast. Now, watch my backhand. For a looping motion like this, what kind of push should you use? Should it be a fast push or a spinny one? Correct, a fast push, not a spinny one. Because he's clearly trying to generate a lot of friction. Now, what if he loops with a motion like this? Fast or spinny? Spinny. That's right. Your pushes must have variation. For an aggressive looper, you must push with heavy backspin. It doesn't need to be fast. The spin alone will often make them loop into the net. See? Even my slow push can make him hit the net. In this situation, prioritize spin. Pushing both fast and spinny requires a high level of skill. If the player is very conservative, with a large or lifting arm swing, you should jam them with a fast push. Vary your placement to prevent them from setting their feet and recovering in time. If you add heavy spin to that shot, you're just feeding their loop by letting them use your spin. A half-long push, or simply slowing down your return tempo, can disrupt their timing. Players with large strokes inherently have rhythm issues because the bigger motion makes it harder to time the ball perfectly. So, use a tricky sidespin serve. Then play a soft, floating push. Anything to disrupt their rhythm and make it hard to loop. Use tempo and placement to make your opponent uncomfortable. First, I'll teach you how to execute a short, spinny push. The short push is very difficult for amateurs. If you could return a long serve that short, you'd probably already have a good banana flick. Most amateurs are more comfortable with long rallies, so you don't always have to force a short return. Serve me a fast backspin. Instead of a long push, I can absorb the pace and use a short, sharp motion. This ball is very difficult to loop. Let me show you how. Absorb the incoming energy, and instead of pushing forward, use a downward snapping motion to guide the ball over. You can't just block it, or it will pop up. You must use subtle force to absorb the power. Push like this. It's the same for penhold players. This half-long ball is very hard to loop and is especially effective against players who attack any ball that goes long. Haven't you noticed? Fast balls are easier to return. It's the soft, slow balls that are hardest to loop because you must generate all the power yourself. This is where most players make mistakes. The faster the incoming ball, the easier it is to execute your own fast push with fewer errors. It's the same on the forehand side. Don't push with a long forward motion. Use a short, downward snap. Don't just stab at the ball long. Absorb its energy, guide it down, and aim for a half-long placement. To wear down an attacker, your pushes must have variation. Go short, then push long and fast. Keep varying your pushes. Use its power with a short snap forward and down. Don't use your whole forearm. It's a very brief, compact motion. Stop pushing with a long follow-through. Next, let's talk about the long push. For beginners, more spin is safer. But against skilled loopers where you can't block the next shot, what do? Push the ball long and fast. Even a very spinny ball can be pushed long. How? Don't try to chop down on it or add your own friction. Quick question, to create heavy backspin, do I contact the bottom half or top half of the ball? The bottom half, exactly. But to push it fast with less spin, you can't contact the bottom. You need to contact the middle of the ball. See? This ball has very little spin. Its main quality is speed. Now, if I want to add spin, my contact point moves to the bottom half of the ball, and I use a chopping motion. If the incoming ball isn't very spinny, I contact it in the middle and focus on a forward pushing motion. This one has less spin. Notice the hand position is the same, but the motion is from back to front. So what if I want to make it spinny? For more spin, my racket tip points down. For a fast push, keep a consistent racket angle and drive forward. Another question, when pushing, is it better to be close to the ball or far away? Closer is correct. I don't recommend pushing from too far away. In a match with wide placements, you'll be easily pulled out of position. If you try to rush the point from far back, you'll often swing and miss the ball entirely. So, my advice is to stay close to the ball and don't panic. You can use variations in your pushing tempo to make it very difficult for your opponent to loop. For instance, I can push quickly. If your opponent's footwork is slow, use a fast push. The faster the incoming rally, the easier it is to generate speed on your push. The rising point of the bounce is best for this. If I can take the ball on the rise, I will primarily focus on pushing with speed. What about the peak of the bounce? That's the easiest time to add heavy spin. A long, fast push or a heavy spin push are your best options at the peak of the bounce. So what about the falling point of the bounce? If you can't read the serve spin or you've made several errors, you must use a slow push. A slow push means you wait for the ball and guide it over slowly, which makes you less susceptible to the spin. Think of it like a chopping motion. Always use a slow, controlled push in this situation. There are specific techniques for this slow push. First, whether forehand or backhand, aim for the center of the ball to neutralize any unknown sidespin. Second, if your slow push goes too high, it means the serve wasn't very spinny. To keep it low, add a slight sideways motion with your forearm. A standard push can easily pop the ball up, right? So, during the push, guide your forearm slightly left or right. This will significantly improve the trajectory. This applies to both forehand and backhand. When you can't read the spin, first, slow down. Second, aim for the middle. Third, move your forearm slightly sideways, not downwards, to avoid popping it up. I'll demonstrate with my backhand. Push to the middle, and push slowly. Then add a little movement to the left or right. Both work. Okay, now I'll show you a sidespin topspin push. You serve sidespin backspin, and I'll return it with sidespin topspin. This return has sidespin topspin. If the opponent tries to loop it like a backspin ball, they will most likely loop it long. This is simple. Use the exact same motion as your left sidespin serve to return the ball with either sidespin backspin or sidespin topspin. By using a sidespin topspin serve motion for my push, my return will have topspin. If they try to loop this ball powerfully as if it were backspin, it will go long. It's not a traditional topspin. Pushing this way makes your return very awkward. The same principle applies to the backhand. Look, isn't this how you serve backspin with your backhand? Don't just give a simple push. Return it using your backhand sidespin backspin serve motion. And then next time, use your sidespin topspin motion. This is similar to the sideswipe loop that many top players use. The only difference is that they've perfected it and made it more aggressive. They all loop like this. It's an evolution of the backhand serve motion. So you adapt, and use the incoming ball's energy with this motion. It's the same for the forehand. When receiving a short forehand serve, we can also use a hook serve motion to return it. I'm essentially performing a hook serve motion, but over the table as a return. I turn my service return into a hook, placing it to their backhand or forehand. So, stop pushing so predictably. How can you make your push spinnier? Here's a tip: after contact, make sure your racket tip finishes pointing at the net. Watch how I do it. I'll demonstrate one for you. Point it at the net. Same for the forehand. You must finish with the racket tip pointing down. If you just drop your wrist but the tip is up, it will still go high. Therefore, you must bring the racket tip down. This lengthens the contact time and increases friction. See? Racket tip comes down, pointing at the target. Same for the backhand. Everyone, watch my racket tip. Aim for the base of the net. When you focus on pointing the tip down, your wrist will naturally rotate, and that's what creates the friction. Second, when the racket tip goes down, your motion automatically lowers the ball's trajectory. If I just drop my wrist without lowering the tip, look, the ball still pops up. Bring the racket tip down, and the trajectory will be lower. Plus, the friction is generated automatically. If you just think about creating friction, you won't have the feeling for it if you haven't practiced enough. So how can you push well, keep it on the table, and not be affected by spin? It's about adjusting the racket angle through the stroke. Against a heavy backspin serve, if my racket angle is more open, I can at least get the ball on the table. But if my racket angle is too vertical, against that same heavy spin, I'll push it right into the net. So, when you can't read the spin and you're afraid of popping it up, can we combine the solutions to both problems? Let's see. Starting with an open racket and closing it, that doesn't seem to work well. How about starting vertical and then opening it up? That seems better. Vertical to open. With this finishing motion, I can get a good grip on the ball. Now, let's try a very spinny one. At the very least, I can get it on the table. See? Start vertical, finish open. For a ball with slight spin, this vertical to open motion solves the problem, right? An open angle handles the backspin, and a vertical angle prevents the pop-up. I'm combining both in one stroke. If I stay purely vertical with no finishing motion, a spinny serve will go straight into the net. So, at the end of the stroke, I adjust my angle to be more open and contact the bottom of the ball, which helps lift it over the net. Don't stop the motion, continue to brush the bottom of the ball to ensure it gets on the table. Starting vertical already prevents the ball from popping up. And when I say vertical, I mean with a slight angle, not perfectly 90 degrees. Many players fear the net, so they start with an open racket angle. But against a ball with less spin, you'll pop it up immediately. So first, I solve the trajectory problem, keeping it low, then I solve the net clearance problem. That's the sequence. Let me be clear, don't let this turn into a scooping motion. That is incorrect. First control the trajectory, then control the net clearance. With this technique, you can push basically any ball onto the table. It's much more consistent. Even if the ball is extremely fast and spinny, just follow this principle. Start with a more vertical angle and finish with a more open angle. A push return this way is also very awkward to attack because the finishing motion adds a bit of extra spin. The trajectory is so low. It's very difficult to loop.